shout out to the River's Edge and the food and Sonia and to everybody here for supplying the alcohol and the food and everything else. So thank you all so much for that. We are all here tonight for our civic duty because we love the town of Highland, because we have questions, because we have concerns, because we want to hear from candidates. We want to see what's on the ballot. We want to know what's going on in our own community. And I think what's so important for me as someone who's lived here for almost 20 years is that we are in a real moment in time right now, a sort of inflection point in our country where disinformation is at an all-time high. We're not really talking to our neighbors. We're not really getting to know them across party lines. And I think ultimately all of us really want many of the same things in our communities. And so it's so important that we come together in physical spaces where algorithms can't pull us down loopholes of untruths, and we can't be pulled into the direction of a Facebook or an Instagram or a Fox News or an MSNBC or be swung in either direction, but just be here together to talk about what matters in our communities. So thank you for being here and being a part of that, because it really, really matters. That's my pitch. So I'm gonna be inviting up a couple people here on stage. The first person I would like to invite up is Chris Dickey. I cannot wait to talk to Chris. He is running for town council. Chris is the Clinical Associate Professor of Global Public Health at NYU. He's also an environmental scientist and a resident of Berryville for 25 years, and we're going to be talking about the Highland Health Initiative, which I'm so excited. Sort of a catch-all clinic here, the first one ever in the town of Highland, which we have so desperately needed for so long. So thank you, Chris, for joining us tonight. Next up, I'm going to bring up Rich Miller. Wherefore art thou, Rich? There he is. Rich is a former NYPD officer with more than 35 years experience in law enforcement, 15 years of which he has been working to help reestablish constabulatory. Is that right? Constabulatory. Watch me fuck this up all night. I can't use the F word.
We get to use foul
I know. Sorry, children. Plug your ears. That'll be my one for the evening. So we're going to be talking about reestablishing that program here in town, which I think is so incredibly important, and how it actually, believe it or not, saves the town money, because we are not bringing in officers and law enforcement from Harris and other places that are much further away. So I really can't wait to talk to Rich about that as well. Next, I'm going to bring up the one, the only, Frank the Monteleone. Frank is running for town council. He is also, you didn't know this, but he is the unofficial town mayor. He's not, but in my mind he kind of is. He's like he's the center, the heartbeat of our town in so many ways, because we've all, been to his many businesses. He is someone who supports the town so much in so many different ways. He's also a certified New York State code enforcer. He offers the town just an expansive knowledge in development, in pizza, all that stuff. So thank you for being here. And then, of course, Sonia Kidney. Sonia is our deputy town supervisor, but she's running for town clerk. She is a lifelong resident, professional, has a professional background working in tourism and in Sullivan County, as well as in the clerk and coroner's office. And she's run 2 decades worth of business, and she's going to bring all of that sort of levity and brilliance, hopefully, into her clerkship here in the town. And then, of course, we have our town supervisor, John Pizzolatto. John, I should say, is a friend, but also somebody who, even if he wasn't a friend, I would be as someone who has been a absolute civic dweeb my entire life. I was just telling somebody about signing up at the polling station in my hometown of Los Angeles when I was 17 to check people in with their IDs, even though I couldn't vote yet, but I just loved that kind of civic engagement. So I have been so sort of awe-struck by what Johnny has been able to accomplish in the last couple of years, including getting $700,000 in grants, which I think is a huge deal for the town, which goes towards health, infrastructure, and all kinds of programs, and sort of creating a new wealth of accountability and transparency here in the town, which I think is really important. Again, that goes towards all of us being able to understand what is going on in our own backyard. So we're gonna ask you guys some questions, and then if you have questions for the candidates, please save them for the end. I'll open it up to you. Please feel free to ask tough questions if you've got a hard one. This is a semi-safe space. Ask whatever you feel like is on your mind, which you might want to know about any of these candidates. So maybe I'll start back at the beginning. But Chris, I am so excited at this prospect of a catch-all clinic here in town. Can you tell us a little bit? I love that the story behind this, right, is that you had come to Johnny and you're like, I've had all this experience. I've got 25 years. I've got all this experience in health, and I'm coming up here to retire, but there's nothing for anyone locally as far as a health center or some way to support people in the town. What are you going to do about it? And Johnny said, well, what are you going to do about it? Which is a very Johnny thing to say. So what are you going to do about it? Tell us.
Well, first of all, this has been it's been one of the most rewarding and exciting things that I've been involved in my whole career, thanks to all of you. When we first started, we were trying to fix some of the health gaps that we all have in this community, and everybody here, I'm sure, can tell a story about why not having health services close at hand has impacted you, has impacted your health, your well-being. And so we started this journey. We got money from the New York Health Foundation. We started talking with all of you. We've talked with many of you already. We want to talk with more of you to see what it is that you want, that you would build if you had access to services here. And so we have a facility next to Il Castello that Kathy DeBoule has kindly agreed to rent to us. We have a commitment from Paula Kay, from Assemblywoman Kay, to renovate that facility so that we can turn it into a community health hub. We have partnerships growing with NYU Langone, with other health providers like Weill Cornell, like the Garnett system. So the idea is to be able to create a space where we can help connect you to resources so that you can deal with health challenges and health questions immediately or in a very quick time, which we don't have here in Berryville. So we think we'll open early in the year, probably in February. We're working out which providers would be there available for you to be able to have access to. But the idea is that you don't hopefully have to wait 6 weeks for an appointment to see somebody, or when you get to the emergency room, be treated like a symptom. That when you get treated, you'll be treated like somebody that knows you, that knows other things that are going on in your life, that knows what's important to you. And so that's the idea. But the most important part is that we're building this together, that we're doing it all together as a community. I don't know if that helps answer your question.
Definitely. And I think what's also really important to stress here is that, correct me if I'm wrong about this, Johnny, but that none of what you're going to hear tonight, all of these wonderful things that are going to be coming into the town of Highland, add on to the budget. So this is not coming out of taxpayers' dollars. This is not adding on to anything. We're already here. This is part of why we've got the grants and so much more of that work, which I think is really wonderful. We're actually putting the money to this good use. I think things that are really important that we've needed here for a very long time. So thank you, Chris, for that. And again, you can ask Chris a question at the end. Rich, I have to tell you a story.
Okay.
The story goes like this. several years ago, I was coming down 97, and I was with my husband, and I was with my 6-month-old daughter, and somebody pulled out of a driveway in front of me, and I swerved over into the ditch, and they drove onto the highway, and then they were driving in the middle of the lane, and I could see, and my husband said that they're drunk. And as I went by, I saw that there was one of our constables pulled over on the side of the road. And so I quickly pulled over, and I got out, and I told him, I said, hey, that guy almost hit us, and he's drunk, and he's driving on the line in the middle of the road. And he dropped what he was doing, and he got in the car, and he hauled butt all the way down the road. And it just, I was reminded of this story, given the fact that the constable program was, and now I'm going to switch gears for a second and just talk personally based on that, taken away from us without our consent, without our knowledge, that the town of Highland, that people here did not get to decide. It just was sort of taken away from us. And I've learned so much since that time about how much less cost effective it is to bring in officers, law enforcement from Harris, which is hours away, and that we're paying for that time in between, and how much more important it is to have local law enforcement who know the people they're working with, who are serving the people that they work with. So will you just talk to us a little bit about you have an incredible experience as not only an NYPD officer, but just in this space, and tell us why you think it's so important to have the program back in place and why we should be voting for it next month.
It's a tall order. Well, first I'd like to say most of the experience that I have with peace officer agencies has been in the last 15 years. I restarted a constabulary in the town of Rochester when we had a very collaborative town board and community, and it was wonderful. We let the community drive what they wanted us to be responsible for, and that's what we did. And it was 100% successful. To date, I have never spent a nickel of taxpayer money. I go out and I do training for 146 external agencies, and that money goes in the general fund. And it used to be earmarked partially for us, but now it just vanishes in the black hole that is the general fund. But what is it? What is a constabulary? I mean, first of all, people ask me all the time, what's the difference between a peace officer and a police officer? In New York State, there are only two differences. One, a police officer can stop you and question you based on reasonable suspicion. They look at you and they think there's something wrong, I'm going to talk to that person. And not in a friendly way, in an interview and interrogation way. What are you doing here? Why are you here? A peace officer can't do that. We have to have probable cause, which is a much higher level of standard. And when I teach this, I explain probable cause means you need to know the law better than any police officer on the planet. You have to know that there's something wrong. Whatever that is, it's all based on observation. I teach a concept called OAA, observe, analyze, and act. In that order. It's not very hard to do. You just have to remember to do it. So I bring up that. Oh, and the other thing is unless there's a local law, you are not permitted to swear out a search warrant or act on an arrest warrant unless it's personally known to you. Other than that, there is no difference in the state of New York between a peace officer and a police officer. So if people say, I don't have to pull over for a constable, they are wrong. We can arrest, we can write tickets, we can write environmental conservation tickets, whatever you want, it's doable. So how do you do it in a community like this, where you're remote from a lot of law enforcement? The response times can be egregiously long. 45 minutes, an hour before someone gets to help you. That's too long. So, in my opinion, in a small town, I love small towns. I absolutely adore having that sense of community. So, I like to look at myself as Andy of Mayberry. Some of you know who that is. Some of you don't. But that's community-oriented policing, which was a buzzword that started in the early 90s. But that's the concept, is you know the people. They call you, you help them. You don't escalate the problem. Small problems, things like quality of life, neighbor-to-neighbor complaints, traffic, You've got a special event you need to deal with. You need someone at the other end of a telephone. When you call for help, they can be there. And they answer. I 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I answer the phone in the town of Rochester. And most of the time, it's just someone who wants to talk. They want an ear. They want someone to listen to their problems and suggest a solution, not necessarily one that can be done right away. Oh, my neighbor's been playing his stereo every day after 11 o'clock. I'm sorry, we don't have a noise ordinance in the town of Rochester. But I will go and talk to them tomorrow or over the weekend. Call me if it happens again. They're overjoyed because someone listened to you. And that's what we would do. We reset this program up with a lot more structure, with a lot more mind towards that quality of life, neighbor to neighbor, traffic. You have two very, very main roads here. I came in today, I was running slightly late, and I couldn't catch the guy who was in front of me on 55. I mean, he had to be doing 90. Had to be. So that's not so great. Where I am now, we have a state park, Minnewaska State Park. We did, the state came to us and said, could you do traffic enforcement and parking for us during the summer season and leaf peeper season? We did $180,000 worth of revenue and didn't write a single ticket to anybody from any adjoining community or our own community. It was all Massachusetts, Vermont. Look where you are. You're at the crossroads. You have a state over here. You've got people coming in from all over the place. And it's such a lovely area that I think tourism is going to be much, much bigger and keep getting bigger as the influx of folks come from the city. I still deal with New York City. I like New York City people. I come from the city. Their expectation of a level of service is much higher. They expect to call someone on the phone and actually get them. And that's what we're going to try to do. And it's going to be all directed by what the community wants and what the board will allow. Because we take our marching order from the public first and then from the board, because they have to decide whether they want us to do it or not. And of course, budget. If we can't afford to do it, we'll have to figure out a creative way to make it happen. And that's, John has been talking to me about grants. I wrote many, many, many grants. There's some money already available for us. So I don't believe there's a single nickel that's going to really be a taxpayer burden. I know you've got a contract now with the Sheriff's Department for a pretty good chunk of change. I don't think we would spend anywhere near that to have the coverage that's required to make people feel comfortable and secure.
Great. And then I'll just, okay, so this might be the most hard-hitting question of the night. Frank, are you ready? I'm coming for you, Frank. Set the record straight. Will you, or won't you, add a side salad to the menu at the corner pizza shop? No one is asking this question but me. Okay, he doesn't have to answer.
Well, you
this
mentioned
question.
side salad.
Yeah, I guess that doesn't.
Because people don't like salad on their pizzas.
Okay, that's why we need to vote him in. Except for like bougie Santa Monica people. I'm from Santa Monica, so I know. They like a lot of lettuce on their pizzas. That's not my real question, obviously. So you're running for town council, and obviously you are like part of the beating heart of the fabric of the town of Highland. Everyone loves the cheer and the joy that you bring here with all of your decorations and all of the businesses and the fresh produce that we get from you and the food we get from you and just the joy. It was amazing when I looked up sort of your resume of just everything that you have done in engineering and in construction and in business owning, and it just seems to me like you are a natural person to be a town council member. But will you tell us sort of why you want to do this and what your passion is for it?
Okay. I'll try. I didn't answer the salad question very well.
You avoided the salad.
Yeah, so I've been around for a while. Most of you know me, I think. I did design and build the greenhouse in Eldred, the hydroponic facility. And because we have a greenhouse in New York State, you can get a farm cidery license, and my wife and I, Phyllis, been making cider for, I don't know, probably since 2015 or 16, and I was always giving it away. And people say, oh, you should do something with it, this and that, but I never had a facility, so now we're dabbing just in small quantities, but we actually make our own hard cider too. And there's a name called Four Grail Cider, and there's a little story behind it, which I'm not going to bore you with now, but my daughter did it, and it's actually the truth, and it's kind of cute if you want to check that out. But what I do, like she mentioned earlier, I am a code enforcement officer for the state of New York, which is a fancy name for building inspector. I'm around it every day. I've been for decades. I do a lot of my dealings in Westchester County. I deal with many of the building departments, many zoning boards, planning boards. Right now I sit as vice chairman on Town of Highland Planning Board. I know what the boards should look like. I know what their composition should be. I know how they should act, how they should treat applicants, and I like to be part of molding that. Not that there's anything wrong with it now, but to be an integral part of seeing these boards be where they should be, only because of my past experiences with other boards that really, really do a good job in managing their zoning and their building departments in these other towns and villages that I'm involved with. And also the comprehensive plan, which we're under review right now, and the planning board gets to look at it and whatnot, but ultimately it's the town board that really defines it, and I want to be a part of that. A lot of the building codes, it's the codes are written, but you have to understand what spirit the codes are written in and understand where the direction it's going. Some of them need to be updated if you've ever read the codes in Town of Highland. Some of them actually need to be, maybe even a little bit stricter. But those are the things I would like to bring to the board. And I think one of the most satisfying thing for me to get on this board is I want to be part of the fun that the four of them are having. I mentioned 4, okay? 4. I'm not going to go into names, but I mentioned 4. And each one of them bring a special skill set. And it's all a different skill set, and that's what you need. And they may disagree, they may agree, but you know what? They can go out for a drink afterwards and have a good time, and then go back to work the next day. I sit at the board meetings, and I see the passion in the board members and the excitement, and I'm like, I want to be part of this. I mean, when I go home at night, I'm thinking about, what am I going to do for my Christmas show? What's the landscaping going to look like in Eldred next year? Because I don't want to bore everybody. I'm not going to take time foiling requests and find out who didn't cross this T or dot this I and how dare you and where is this. I'm not going there to do that. I'm going there to, hey, how can I get involved? And these guys have already made me involved. I was an integral part in the generator project up at the town shop. We also did the HVAC system in town hall, which is ready to go. Blueprints, everything's ready, sized up. If they find the grant money, or maybe when I'm involved, if we find the grant money, we can get that done. So I think I have a lot to bring. Plan review, if there's a big project going on in Eldred or anywhere in Town of Highland, to be a part of that, and also the building department starting to get off its training wheels, let's say, and to be an ear to them, to help them if they have any questions or whatever, or things that I see, I could make some suggestions. To be that integral part of the board, I think would be beneficial. So that's it.
I love that about you, that you are a lover of the small business and of the people here, and that you don't want the BS of it. You just want to make sure that people can enjoy their livelihood and their businesses, and then go also enjoy just living, So thank you for that. Sonia.
Yeah.
You have an incredible resume. You are a woman who has owned her own business for 20 years. Previously, you've worked, you've clerked and worked in the coroner's office in Sullivan County. You're running for town clerk. Will you just tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, and
Sure.
why you think that this is the job for you?
Absolutely. So I spent many years in the county government center in Sullivan, working from when I was still in high school. I started with the Sullivan County Tourism Department, and from there I went on to the county clerk's department, where I was coroner's secretary. So I'm familiar with helping the public, making sure everybody's treated with respect, understanding that forms need to be filled out correctly, understanding the importance of proper record keeping, which unfortunately right now we don't have a lot of. My plan is to take all the skills that I have, my experience, and bring structure back to the office, make sure every resident is treated with respect. We need accurate records, complete minutes. As town council person, I've seen how important it is to have the accurate records. That's what the trust depends on. When all those things fall away, then so does your faith in our government. And we need to bring that back. That's something I'm determined to fix. So yeah, I'm bringing structure back to the office, proper record keeping, meet every legal and ethical standard that the law requires. And I want every resident to feel respected from their local government, and I intend to deliver that to you.
So John,
Yes.
Mr. Pizzolatto,
Yes.
we're both wearing corduroy. You're running again for town supervisor. Yes, agreed. There's been a lot of work from what I've read about, and a lot of good, solid, needed changes as everyone sort of spoke to here. You know, getting a health center in town, reestablishing the constabulary, that thing. Boy, say it 3 times fast, that's even worse. You know, bringing codes up to date, sort of just a little slight upgrade. I think I had said to someone earlier that it's like getting a nice fresh polish change. Not gonna get new fingers, just gonna get some nice new polish on there for the town of Highland. And you know, with all of this work that you've done, you're running again. You've gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants, and there's just still so much more to be done. So just tell people here who I think, you know, again, the first thing I said to everyone here is we are living in a world where we're getting our information through bias and gauze of the online world and of anyone's, on any side's given's motivations, whatever those might be. And so in some way I want to say, like, can you set some of the records straight for what it is that you have been doing, maybe some of the things that you have been accused of by your opponent. I know these things are always hard and I want to stick with the positive, but I feel seeing the work that you have put into the last couple of years, also putting your own personal livelihood on the line a lot in order to make those things happen. Just talk a little bit about what you've done and why this matters so much to you that you would run again and that you want to invest in such a big, powerful way with all of these people you're sitting on the stage with.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. It really means a lot. And you know, sometimes you feel like you're in a cave and no one's listening to you, or you can't get your message out because of what you were talking about so much disinformation. You know, we set out to do, we've accomplished everything that we put on paper and said we would do in our first term, which I'm really excited about. You know, I wanted to put the choice back in the people's hands about the constabulary, so that's going to be on the ballot. You know, you guys have a chance to vote. Flip your vote over, or your ballot over. Make sure you do that on November 4th or before if you vote early. But we've also been able to develop relationships. I think that was one of the things we started to get so insular as a community and not reach out to the county for resources, not reach out to the state for resources. And we have to pay New York State and Sullivan County taxes. So we should be able to be the beneficiary of some of those grant funds. So I really wanted to open up that dialogue in a bigger way. So one of the first people that I made it my business to become really tight with was Aileen Gunther, who is like the most exemplary public servant I think I've ever encountered or worked with alongside. So, you know, she's responsible for funding the courthouse renovation that's about to come your way, which we're really excited about as well. So once we started opening up that floodgate, we said, what else can we do? What else can we do? What else can we do? So we looked to Town Hall to increase the technology and security of Town Hall, so we got a grant for that. We also got a grant to actually bring the senior and community center kitchen into compliance, because it had fallen out of compliance with both the health department and just this in serving the seniors, and the ability to be a gathering space and have events there. I feel like we've made it much easier, gave it a little facelift. But really it's just been about listening to people. You know, when I go door to door, when I call you, thank you for letting me in your homes, and thanks for answering your phone when I call. I really just wanted to put my ear to the ground and see what people needed. And so we started to uncover some of like the rumors, you know, the rumor mill, you know, oh, the previous town board stole this, or they took this, or they did that. They probably didn't. And I do have to tell you that, you know, the job of being a public servant, I've made it a full-time job, but it's supposed to be a part-time job. It's supposed to just be looking over everything. But it was a really heavy lift to bring things into a base level of compliance and a base level of everybody being represented in the community. Because I felt like, as somebody who'd moved here 20 years ago, I know I will never be local. I know it'll never happen for me or my cats or my dogs or my husband or anybody else. But, you know, we are still a part of the community, and my voice should be heard, your voice should be heard. Everybody should be represented in town hall, not just the 5 or 6 families that claim stake and, you know, put their flagpole down and say, this is our town. No, it's not. It's all of our towns. And a gathering place for people to come up with ideas, and I think anybody willing to sit up here and do this work is already, you know, putting their money where their mouth is, or putting their mouth where their money is, actually. And I think that we all just have to take stake in it and take a part of that responsibility, because it is great. And I'm not doing it for any sort of like power base. That's a very strange thing I hear my opposition say. We need to reclaim the power base. If you're doing it right, it's not power. It's about transparency. It's about listening to people. It's about getting those ideas into creation, finding the money to do it, and hopefully keep spirits high and taxes low. I will not do anything on my watch to raise your taxes, because I don't want my taxes raised. You know, it's hard to keep up. You know, and I think that that's something that's at the forefront, and that's part of my message that has gotten mixed up. Oh, Johnny loves to spend money. Johnny's going to do this to you. He's going to raise your taxes. It's fear factor. You know, I don't agree with a lot of things that come down as regulations in New York State. You know, like this, and sorry for my friend who is part of this company, but you know, at a time when we're seeing our electrical rates skyrocket all throughout the county, we're in a really tough spot where we're watching these things escalate when we're getting mandates from the state that everything has to be electric from here on out. And that's a scary prospect. So we have to come up with solutions as a community to try to work around that and help each other and work with our energy company to make sure that they stay in their place and treat us all fairly as well. But it's all, again, about relationships. It's about developing and having a conversation and not closing the town of Highland off and saying, it's none of your business, don't look over here. You know, people in the county, and you know, I know there's a couple people from Sullivan County government here, we were always known as the Wild West. You know, like we did our own thing, we weren't in compliance with the river management plan, we got rid of our constables without the proper mechanisms to do so. We were a legal hot button waiting to happen at all times, you know, before. And I really just want to get us to be a functioning member of the state and of the county and of our country. I mean, I think we all love our country and we love our town, and just want to see it flourish. And you know, I don't think, you know, while I'm really, really proud of my family, you know, my dad was a union electrician, my mom worked at United Way, you know, we were doing Bowl for Kids or giving blood at a young age, probably too young. You know, doing things for retired senior citizens, and like this is the environment I grew up in. So it just feels natural. But I don't think that my parents' accomplishments mean anything to me or my life, or why you should take me seriously. Everybody is a standalone person. So to say, well, my family's always done this, so we should do it. Enough of that. It's not. It's who's the best man for the job? What are you going to bring to your community? There's no entitlement here. And I think that that's the biggest difference between me and my opposition, is that they feel entitled to take it back. It's their town. They need it. You know, and it's frustrating to hear that kind of sentiment, because I think all of you would be capable to serve up here. I think there's a lot of intelligent people in the room. It's not a power base. It's a sharing of ideas and a leadership. And when it's time to pass the baton, I'm happy to do so. And hopefully we'll leave it a lot better than we found it. And so I feel pretty confident that we've already been able to accomplish that.
I think the word that I always think about is not necessarily, again, power, but leadership, right? And I think what all of you represent on this stage is exemplary leadership in ideas and things that you want to do for the town of Highland. So I guess with that, I'm going to open it up to questions if anybody has any. I'm happy, you can raise your hand.
You did get one question.
Oh, you did? Do you have it?
I emailed it, yeah.
I did write it on my postcard.
Oh my God.
Oh, we did get a question. Yes. Okay. You know what? This is actually interesting, Chris. You might be able to speak to this as well. Should I say who it comes from, or does it matter, John?
Pardon?
Should I say who it comes from, or does it matter?
No.
I'll just keep it anonymous. Okay. Hello. How will Highland assess all of the negative environmental and residential impact information and make a determination regarding FINFO, which is obviously a huge piece of information? I just thought, as like an environmental scientist, but also John, you can speak to this as well. I'll bring it over to you, Chris, and you guys can pass it around if you want.
Sure. Definitely, I'll look forward to John's response on this, but I don't think anybody on our council, on this slate of individuals that want to run for council, want to limit development in our town at all. That's not at all the idea that we want to pursue. But the other thing that we have is this incredible natural resource of the Delaware River and the lakes that you all live on, and the beautiful environment that we live in, which brought us here, those of us that have been here, that came here, and keeps us here, those of us that were born here. And so whatever development happens has to happen in an environment that protects that asset, which once it goes away, it's gone. It's gone forever. So we have to we're stewards of that. We're now responsible to make sure that that's the case. So without limiting development, we need to make sure that we have a way that it's not going to be harmed by whatever development happens, so that if Camp Info goes forward, whatever happens throughout this process, if it goes forward, that it doesn't harm this wonderful asset that we've got. So we'll set up systems to monitor it, to be able to establish a baseline level of purity in the water, and we can monitor it very frequently to make sure that they're fulfilling their obligations to maintain this asset. This is the way I think we should see it.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on a lot of really important things. You know, that we are in the process now of looking for more grant money. I think we've secured it with Friends of the Upper Delaware to get a baseline water test, so that we have a baseline for this is what the water was like before you started your project and what's it gonna look like afterwards. So this project it's had a rough start because it was done a little behind the scenes from the beginning. When FINFO, or when the former Kittatinny was for sale, part of a parting gift to the former owner was permitting those, the water or riverside structures, you know, the trailers that are on the riverside. Our previous code enforcer did that when he was working for the town. And that was sort of a parting gift to them. It was completely out of the river corridor management plan and out of compliance. So those things should have never been permitted. You know, they're in the 500-year floodplain and the 100-year floodplain. I've lived here for 20 years and I've seen the 500-year flood, and then followed by the 100-year flood right afterwards, like right in that space. If you guys remember the summer of 2007 and 2008, it was like a 1-2 punch where you were seeing sheds and all these other things float down the river. So we made some mistakes from the beginning, but we can only move forward, right? I mean, I've taken a tour of Kittatinny. There are, propane tanks hissing, there's like hoses to nowhere, there's all sorts of unsafe structures. So I do believe that if there are improvements to be made, that there will be some benefits to the development of this land and that it will be a safer space. I don't like the idea of disenfranchising all the people who come here. They come into my business, wanting coffee in the morning, but the people that are into primitive camping, I would hope they would try to reserve some of the land still for the primitive camping as well, because I think that is part of our rich fabric of our community, as well as like those campers that come in. It's maybe not my desired holiday to sleep next to somebody in like a parking lot, but hey, that's fine. They enjoy it, and they've been doing it for years and what have you. But I believe in property rights more than anything. So I don't want to say you can't come in here and do this. They purchased it, they bought it, but it's not yes or no, it's how. How are you going to do this safely? How are you going to make sure that we're kept and that there's not too much overdevelopment? I mean, the idea of 8 people cramming into a trailer, I don't think is a sustainable business model, but I can't, again, interfere in somebody's business plans. I think that there's ways that the planning board, and sorry to turn up the heat on Frank, but I think that there's a dialogue that can exist between the planning board and the town board to make sure that we're all kept safe and that we don't allow things very hard line. To me, the most ridiculous prospect that they came up with was when they were going to put a mountain coaster. My friend Martha Wurzel lives right above where the mountain coaster would sort of peak at, and she would have to hear these screams all day long. So at our first FinFo forum, I said, these are the people in your neighborhood. These are the people you have to answer to. Do you really want to be responsible for a mountain coaster disrupting the peace of our community? And they backed away from that. So I think that they are flexible enough that they will back away from some of the more egregious parts of it. Putting a gigantic water slide in a pool, right on 97 is not within the character of our community. I hope that they can tuck it away and keep it safe away from our river sources. I think they need to update their septic plans. Like the septic system that they've already proposed is already kind of out of date, and people aren't using those Elgin systems as much anymore. So I think that there's ways to mitigate all of our environmental losses, because like Chris said, once you destroy a piece of a body of water, a piece of land, you can't really go back. It doesn't really regenerate in the way that you would like it to. So we really just have to make sure that it stays within the confines of what it should, and that none of our lives are negatively affected by it. And I think part of that also is the stress that they're going to put on our emergency services. That's something that needs to be dealt with as well. When I first met with the FinFo lawyers in April of 2024, I requested that they put together a community fund so that we could get first the baseline water test, maybe the next year is for like another ambulance rig, the next year is for another fire department rig. They need to reinvest in our community as well, aside from their taxes. I think the IDA coming in and them being off the tax rolls is an awful prospect as well. I think if they intend to do that should not be allowed. We just really have to keep it tight. And I don't want to take over, but I do want to say we have somebody with a lot of really great ideas about law enforcement in the room too. Tim DYMOND is here. He's the write-in candidate. I think Tim is so excited because he's really facing an uphill battle. He's a write-in candidate. That's tough. But we're all on another alternative party called Lifting Neighbors, which is a bipartisan effort that I founded with my friend Margie Bernisi here. I know she doesn't like to be called out, but we were running together. Margie was a Republican, myself and Laura were Democrats, but we all had the same sensibilities and the same like-mindedness of just wanting to help the community. None of the bigger national issues that divide us are ever going to be on the ballot. And we said, hey, I think that we represent what our neighbors and what the beat on the street is, and so let's look beyond that. And so I'm really excited that Tim is here, and I'm really excited that he's giving us a choice, because I feel like a lot of things are so dictated to us, and I think that he represents a really exciting prospect that nobody should go unchallenged. Everybody should have to answer to somebody, and I think that about my opposition as well. As cruel and as unwieldy as she's been and disruptive as she's been in meetings and purposefully, delivering misinformation all over the place. It's only made us stronger. It's made every grant application stronger. It's made our connections within the state stronger. And I think it's really important that we have that choice. And I'd love to hear a little bit from Tim about why you're running, if you don't mind.
Thank you, John, and obviously every candidate up here, our wonderful moderator. My name is Tim DYMOND, and I have found myself as somewhat of the tip of the spear of taking on the Good Old Boys Club of Sullivan County. So we started last year talking about how the county is lacking accountability, it's lacking progress. It was becoming a free-for-all, and that was run by several people in power that were now influencing all local races to get their friends in power so they could all have power of the county, right? And I don't know about you, but I look around Sullivan County, our county is struggling, right? It's struggling really bad. This is a gem, right? The town of Highland, just so you guys know, I came out for a St. Patty's Day parade. I met John. I'm like, we might want to move here. Like, I really, it's a special place. My family and I live in Grahamsville, which is also a lovely place in our county. But the purpose of me running was, I look at our county and it's constantly struggling and failing, and we never make any change. We never take positive steps forward, right? We have a far right, far left contingents that don't talk to each other. There's never any progress. So I'm here for progress. I represent the middle. I was raised by a social worker and a nurse. I've lived that life. I'm a retired senior investigator from state police. I did a career in gang and narcotics. If you think you don't have the problems that we need a sheriff's office here, I promise you, you do. It was about 5-6 years ago I bought 500 bags of heroin in Eldred as an undercover police officer right here in your community. So the problems are here. We can do better. I love that you're bringing back the constables, right? That may be a little controversial for me to say. Let's talk harsh reality for Sullivan County. The sheriff's office is putting out one car on an overnight, right? During the day, there's not many cars out here. Everyone knows that, right? Everyone knows that having a constable there, that you know, your family knows, your kids know, it's that instant response. Now, if there's a murder, it's not going to be handled by the constable, right? They may be the first one there, but you're going to bring in sheriff's office, state police, resources, right? The heavy stuff, you're still going to need them for. But paying $100,000, which I'm pretty sure was the total, right? That was the number? Guess what? You get the same coverage that I'm getting in Grahamsville, and the town of Eversting pays $0. So
You never pay twice.
it's crazy, and I think it's a great thing for you guys to throw on the ballot. So thank you so much. I encourage you to write me in. It's Tim DYMOND, DYMOND with a Y. Let's make a difference, make Sullivan County better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tim. And so if we have any questions here, you can raise your hand, and I'll just repeat them back. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I don't know who wants to answer this. It could be any or all of you. What do you see the river corridor looking like, sounding like, feeling like in 5 years? What do you think it's going to look like? What do you want it to look like in 5 years' time?
Yes. What do you think the river corridor is going to look like? What do you want it to look like in the next 5 years?
The same. I think that what we found, we've been working on the 10-year comprehensive plan, and I think that we've really seen that the community wants what's here, right? Like, we don't want spot zoning. That's one of the more controversial. A floating commercial district is a very scary prospect. That's something we're tackling in the 10-year comprehensive plan to hopefully do away with, because what it does is it allows our green spaces or things that are not commercially zoned areas to just pop up if the board so chooses to. So like, while we all want a hardware store, do we want to create an urban sprawl on 55 and what's forested land right now? Same thing goes for the river corridor. That's what makes me very nervous about, to be completely honest, is copycat businesses. if some of these more family-owned campgrounds start to see that they can make more money, they may sell out to a developer, and that could become a strip mall.
They already
And then it could just continue to rage on and rage on and rage on. So I don't mind giving this large corporation that manufactures, park model homes a little bit of grief and a couple hoops to jump through before they permanently alter what it looks like to be here. I don't care about their struggle, to be completely honest. It's not a small business, it's not coming from within inside the town, and it's not really providing that many meaningful or wonderful jobs. So I don't feel bad to mitigate our losses or to make it difficult to get to the place where they have to ascend to make sure that we're going to be taken care of and that we're not going to face overdevelopment challenges. We've determined that we want to have the sort of recreational businesses that we have along the river corridor, and in Eldred, that's kind of our town seat, which is why we made an investment in the property next door, because our emergency services are right there. We need to upgrade our septic systems. These are the things you're not hearing. I don't know if you guys know about this, but we pump our septic in town hall probably about every 2 months. Because the ambulance service has taken over the emergency services garage. So part of the purchase of next door was to have an area to expand our systems, and there's already a system in place that we can tie into. But also it's been an eyesore since I moved to the community, and we did that again with 100% grant money to no cost to everybody, and I vowed that we wouldn't spend any money on it. So the first thing we did was got a Rust grant to demolish the building and to put parking on the lower bit, but we also applied for some more grants to hopefully develop it into something. But we really want to keep businesses where they are and to have things expand where they are now. I don't think any of us want to live in a strip mall village or have developments popping up in neighborhoods where it's going to disrupt people's quality of life. I think that we owe it to each other to let everybody maintain the rural character that we've always kind of come to know, or what brought us here, or what keeps us here.
I mentioned that we started this journey toward healthcare by talking to people, and what we've learned is that our neighbors, the people that we've talked to, over 100 so far, feel that access to health services is too far away for many people, it's too expensive, it's too impersonal, it's too confusing. And so many of our neighbors live for quite a long time with a lot of anxiety. When Johnny and I have been knocking on doors, we've been meeting people that have to wait 6-7 weeks for an appointment. We met one fellow who had a very negative blood test, who was told that you need to follow up on this regularly because you're at a very high risk of cancer. He can't afford it, and he doesn't know where to go to find these services. And that's a common story. We hear this over and over. So the takeaway for me was that our neighbors, and all of us, we live with a fair amount of anxiety that something will happen to us, that a symptom will change, that we end up getting a diagnosis, that we'll have an accident. And we are not able to access services quickly that are at high quality and affordable and accessible to us. So in 5 years, I want that anxiety level to be much, much lower among all of our neighbors. And you see, it's the same level of anxiety that we see without having a constable. That if something were to happen here, God forbid, how long would it take for somebody to come and find us, and what level of service could we expect?
Somebody just turn this off.
We know who it is.
Or we have anxiety that the camera is going to go off. So we live with a high level of stress that in 5 years, I really want to see that level of stress go down so that we can really, really enjoy this wonderful environment that we live in.
Any other questions? Yes, in the back? Yeah?
Yeah, just given the general anxiety that we have, like, from the federal government and, like, everything else that is, like, somehow shutting down all the things that we have in our local community, like, what do we feel, how do we answer that? Like, how do we answer, I mean, it's a hard question, I'm sorry. Like, but how do we answer, like, what are we doing here locally to answer everything that's happening from the national level?
So the question is more of an existential one, I think, asking.
I know, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. What are we doing here to speak to the larger, like the larger federal discourse and divide in a lot of ways, and all those issues. I'll answer that. Exactly what we're doing right here. That's what I think. I mean, I'll defer to you as well, but I think this is the work. The work is coming together across party lines whatever party you are, coming here together to say, actually, we all kind of want a lot of the same things.
Yeah.
We actually do. We actually, again, as Frank was saying, like, we actually just want to be able to put food on the table, take care of our families, take care of our communities, and go have a drink at the end of the night and not have to worry about all the rest of the BS. So I think doing this more and being a model, an outward model to other communities and to other counties as a way to function in a world that does not function well right now at all, is the way and is the model going forward. That would be my answer.
There's so many answers. No, I think that you can look into every single person's face on this board and know that we will help you and know that we will be there. I mean, we have amazing resources in this community. We have the Can't Hurt Steel Foundation that helps people who have cancer. We have our St. Anthony's Food Pantry. We're feeding about like 30 families on average every twice a month or pickups. We're working with the county to get food over. We started, part of the reason we renovated the senior and community centers so that we can have more community meals and have a conduit to feed people and to be together. I think that that's what it's all about. I think I'm not nervous for, you know, at least on a nutritional, nutritionally speaking, or resources within the town. I think that we are a really amazing community like that. I think we all will lift each other up. I think the local churches are incredible and they're like the cornerstone. I mean, I live in a church. I go to the church for the farmer's market. I go to the church a couple times a month for the food pantry. So there's these we have these really wonderful built-in institutions in our community that we can rely on for help. We also have wonderful people in the county like Marty Colavito from SALT. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this guy, but I've called him before when I know that young families are in trouble, and he's been here within 45 minutes to deliver a box of diapers and, you know, food and, you know, wonderful supplies for people. So we have it within all of our abilities to help each other and to lift each other up. And that's one of the most wonderful things. That's what keeps me here, is the people here and what we do for each other. And I really think that you can count on every single face up here. And I have to tell you, and I don't know if Frank knows this, maybe you do. I ran for supervisor in 2021 and I lost by about 5 or 6 votes. It was a really tough race. But I kind of checked out. I would go to some meetings and just kind of see what was going on still in town, and it didn't get any better. So it was motivating in that way already. But Frank put in 4? How many charging stations do you have? 4. He put in 4 electric charging stations, which is, you know, such an ideal or a directive from New York State that we, you know, go towards green energy and all these things. He received 17 code violations for putting in 4 electric charging stations. The code office faces said charging stations, so after they were built and actualized, then he got the violations.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't going to tell that, but I didn't want to talk about me, but since John mentioned it, and that was one. I really took a look and said, man, I'm not sure what's going on over there. I'm literally across the street, but when I put the chargers in, I had the colored brochure. The colored brochure went to the clerk. I'm going to put 4 of these across the street. What do I need? I knew what I needed, but what do I need? What do you require from me? Well, I got this blank stare, and I said, well, you got the building inspector, you can talk to them, but what do I need? And she looked at it, and this is what you need. I'm like, okay, and that's what I did. I filled it out, I paid it, I got my permit, away we went. I started hanging the chargers on Labor Day Monday. The office opened on Tuesday, registered letter in the mail, 17 violations. I'm like, what did I do? I did what you told me to do. And being a code enforcement state of New York, first of all, there's a conversation. There's a conversation between code enforcement and the applicant. If there was something got lost in the mail or there was a misunderstanding, that's when you work it out, verbal conversation. If for some reason that person just ignores that verbal conversation, then it is an order to remedy, which this process usually takes 6-8 weeks. they'll order a remedy. Hey, you really need to do this and this and this. It's usually then followed by another conversation, and then at a last resort, you get hit with violations. And I had 17 in my entire building career, including my 20+ years in the Bahamas doing power generation and fresh water and taking care of a village. I've never had a violation on there's not one you can put on my resume. But my own town across the street, just they were waiting for something, and it was Tuesday, because they didn't know the work I was doing, but as soon as they saw that charger, that following Wednesday, it probably spent all day on Tuesday going through hundreds of pages of code, and because that's how stupid it was. And then when professionals actually looked at it, what did they do? Threw it out and said, this is nonsense. You don't know what you're talking about. And they threw every single one out, which you've probably heard. This was thrown out, that was thrown out. Well, yeah, because they're fake, they're phony, and that's what happens when people go after you. And maybe you don't fit in with what they think the direction of town should be going. So yes, that's the EV charger story. I have other ones too, but we'll stop with that.
Yeah. I just wanted to answer that. That is exactly what I'm talking about with respecting every resident. Every resident deserves to be respected. And what's happening right now are you don't find the answers. One of the things that I learned with county government is you pick up the phone, you hate making that phone call because you have a question. Because you get one person, they say, well, I'll transfer you here. And then I'll transfer you there. And then you don't know where you are. And you end up right back at the beginning. I hated that. And I promise you, you will not get that from me. If you need help with something, there's not one person that's sitting up here that isn't going to help you find what you need. Okay?
And I have to tell you guys something. The reason I brought up that story about Frank is because Frank honestly changed the course of my life. I was not going to run for supervisor again, but I did it because of this guy, because I cared about one of my neighbors being abused that does so much for the community. And I think that every single person up here will fight for you and will defend you and make sure that your own town that you pay taxes for their salaries is not going to do something to hurt you or affect your livelihood, because it's not what the town is supposed to be about.
That's right. So on that note, okay, we'll have one last question here because we're coming close to 7 o'clock. Yeah, go ahead.
I actually want to thank you guys because you're very courageous. You are getting a lot of flack from these people, and you're hearing a lot of bad stuff about you. These people. I heard one thing about me, and I was livid, and I was ready to quit the town. I am happy that you're not quitting the town, Johnny. I know you lost the first time. I'm glad you won the second time. I really hope. And I'm happy that you're running again. Because I can't believe everything that's being said to you. I know they're not true. And because I know you and I know what you did, you're gone. So I'm just like happy that you're running again for us. Thank you.
Good job. And also saying, the couple of last things I heard here that I think are really important to remember is that John lost by 6 votes the first time that he ran. Okay? This is how important it is that you do go vote. That we're not just here tonight, but that we actually follow up with action. So I'm actually going to ask everybody tonight to do me a favor and to pledge along with me that you will be responsible for one other person. One person that is not yourself, that is not a family member. So if you're a family of 2, then you're responsible for 4. If you're a family of 3, you're responsible for 6. I know math. But if we all do that, we can help engage our community to really show up at the polls, to make sure to vote. And if you need help with a ride, we got you. We can find somebody. You can speak to the candidates here about that. It is early voting right now.
Yep.
It is early voting every single day until Sunday, this next week. There's no excuses. There's lots of different times. No excuses, but lots of different times. So make sure you check the Sullivan County website to find out the exact times. It's super easy. There's usually not long lines, but it can make the difference. So if you're thinking to yourself, these guys got it in the bag, it's gonna be just no problem. You are very possibly wrong. And we could just go back to the way things were before. No transparency, crazy bureaucracy that would stop somebody like Frank from having, electric chargers in our town community. It's ridiculous. So my urgent message to you is to please be responsible for one other person. Make sure that person gets to the polls, and then we can double the efforts here. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you for your Rich Miller, Chris Dickey, my brain has gone out the door. Thank you all for being here. Please come up and talk to the candidates too if you have any questions, anything else you want to ask them. Thanks for being here.